Okay, I think we're recording and I think we've recovered, and this is just what goes to show when Casey asked me to run a breakout session, the internet on campus goes out and hey, we are within 15 minutes. John Kane is a superstar as always. So welcome to the structured content portion of our accessibility breakout sessions. I'm just gonna share my screen. And because we're a little behind, I'm not going to do all the crazy, exciting things I had planned. We're going to stay very basic in this session, and I'm hoping to get a lot of questions from you all about how to start thinking about accessibility within our Word and Google Docs that we share with our students. So in terms of our 5 principles of accessibility, we are number 1, and of course I am leading the number 1 section because that's the kind of person I am. And I actually think that this is a really good place to start when we start thinking about accessibility in our course materials, because these are the kind of documents where we usually start when we start preparing a course. Usually we start with our syllabus, and generally we write our syllabus either in Microsoft Word or in Google Docs. And the sort of idea about accessibility is to start building up ideas of how to make content more manageable, not only for people who might have impairments or accessibility issues, but for all of our students. And so generally what we're going to be covering in this session is a way to think about how to build up our documents so that they're easy to read, content is more we can sift through what we're looking for more easily, and we can provide tools to the digital tools that we have to help people who may have ability to see or hear, etc. So I think what I'm going to get right into is I'm going to jump from that to our main example of why we need to worry about accessibility in Word and Google. And this comes from an exercise, and something that I don't do very well, which is baking. So if on your screen you notice, this is a gluten-free peanut butter cookies recipe. Now we have a couple of people online, we have a couple of people in the room. What do you notice about this? And I'll move this recipe. Is this accessible? To you or to me?
If I was baking this, I'd rewrite the whole thing because I would have to read the entire paragraph every time I was trying to figure out what next to add.
Right, right. So exactly, Amy. It is really like, it reads like a novel, right? And when you're cooking, novels is not the approach that you want to take, right? So yes, you would have to read everything over again. It doesn't help the eyes focus on what you're going to need to gather before you get cooking, nor what you might be doing so generally, unfortunately, when we start making any kind of document, the default always is paragraph. And that's what we have here. We have a paragraph of information, but it's not very accessible for any of us. So what happens when we start to play with it a bit? How about now? Does this seem more accessible to read? What do you think? Yes, it certainly is breaking up information in a much more clear manner. And what have we actually done here? What is different about this presentation as opposed to this one? Well, it's no longer written as a paragraph. It has more relevant information spaced out so our eyes can go directly to at least some order of what we might need. So the ingredients are much clearer here. And then we have directions. But is this still very accessible? Could this information be clearer?
Yeah.
I think so. And so what the principle of structured content is what is the information that we are trying to convey? And what's the best way that we can present it to our audience so that we get to the relevant information in the best way. And so one way that we could improve it is we could start using the basic principles that we want people to be thinking about as they develop documents for their courses: headings, subheadings, right, lists, maybe numerical orders, bullet points, etc. And we see it here now. We've taken one step further. We now have a title, what the recipe actually is. We have now subheadings. We have the way that recipes generally are organized is we need to know what ingredients we're going to be using, and then we need to have directions. And that is denoted by, in this case, by what? How are we emphasizing our headings and our subheadings?
Bolding and size.
Yeah, bolding and size, which probably most of us who have been teaching for a long time have always been doing, right? We generally approach all our documents this way. But one thing that I never did when I first started teaching is I never really thought about how I could use the tools of certain content to get to headings and size and things like that. Now, of course, we could go one step further and make this really clear by not just having headings and subheadings and with different sizes and bolding, but what's different about this now, which seems even more clear. Well, we are now training our eye to look at things in two different ways. The first use we're using is bullet points, which emphasizes that all of these different ingredients, right? It's easier to read. It's indented, it's got the bullet points, but the directions also now are using numbers. Why is the numbers important here, but probably less important in the ingredients? Yeah, it's an order, right? We are saying that in order to get a cookie at the end of this recipe, we need to follow certain steps in a particular order. That's what the numbering system does. So what we're supposed to get out of this example is that really whenever we're planning to convey information in an accessible way, not only for our students who might need technology to help them get to access, but to all of our students, is we need to really identify the content of what we're trying to convey. So identifying content types from the very beginning is kind of like building a house from scratch instead of trying to repurpose things. And what it means is when we get started with a document, we're going to want to organize it by the content type and what's going to make it the most sense to convey our information. So content types help us organize. They make clear, consistent manner so that whether we're giving out a syllabus or instructions for an assignment or whatever we're doing, that we are allowing people to have the clues of understanding what information is important and what process they need to go through in disseminating. Also, as we become more digitally accessible, we want to provide the aids to people who need it, the ability to synthesize the information, not just using their eyes or their senses, but through the technology. So by doing this, we can assist screen readers who have visual impairments or dyslexia, and we can use styles that allow people to skim through documents and get important information. So what I'm hoping that we can learn to do is figure out how to do this in two sort of different types of ways we might be providing information, and that is through Word documents as well as Google. And the first thing that we, of course, are going to really be utilizing that some of us may have been doing bold or size as a way to denote importance, but rather using the tools that are part of the systems that we use. And so we're going to learn about headings, the difference between paragraphs or normal text, or by providing lists and ordered or numbered. And then what we should be using probably tables for and what we shouldn't be. So to start, basically, in order for people to really be able to utilize information well in either Word or Google, the first question we need to ask is, what are the fonts that we are using? Now, do any of you have favorite fonts that you always write in? Yes, and I'll tell you what mine was. It was Times New Roman. Why? Because that was the default font of Word when I first started using it, and that should tell you how old I am. Right, and even when Word adapted and went to Arial and went to others, I did not follow because I was used to reading things in Times New Roman. Well, actually, what we know is that the reason why Word keeps adapting to different fonts is because some fonts are cleaner and easier for people with impairments and everybody else to see. So generally, it's these 5 basic fonts that provide the most accessible, clearest way for people to read online as well as other documents. I have now moved on to Georgia. That is now my font of choice, mostly because I like Ray Charles and I think about him singing about Georgia. And so now my default font is Georgia, which I think is a little more exciting than some of the others. But generally, if you're using one of these 5, you're in good company. Also, things that are important to keep in mind is that you need to worry about contrast. And this is becoming more and more important as we do more things online and digitally. And what probably the best thing to do, which you can tell by my slides, is have a white background with black font. This provides a really good contrast and makes things more easily read. Another thing to keep in mind is that when we're writing text, we should be making sure that we don't think about printing anymore. We should be thinking about what's more readable. So when you're writing normal text in paragraph style, don't ever use anything that's less than 12 points. And for headings, 14 points should be your minimum. And then generally, we need to rethink about how we use what headings are. Heading 1 should be your most prominent heading, usually conveying the information of what you're trying to convey, what we might used to be called a title. And then you probably are going to have subheadings to distinguish between different parts of your document. And you go to heading 2 and then to heading 3. And the nice thing about using headings is that it organizes the material. When you see 2 categories of equal value, then you should be using the same heading to denote that section of the document. You should be making sure that you use white space, and the tools that Word and Google Docs have to help us do this are our themes, our formats, and our styles. And this is where you can really utilize the tools in less of a ad hoc way. This is how I was used to doing my formatting. Now I find that Word and Google Docs provide us the tools to do this easily. And even if we don't like their themes, we can create our own. And so we're going to go through this step by step. Now, the caveat here that's always important to remember is that Google and Word provide us these tools, but they're not always accessible. So that can get kind of frustrating. So sometimes when we use preset options for colors and fonts, it does give us that nice consistent look, but we need to make sure that what we're using has good contrast, has good heading, and is good using good practices. And so we can start with preset options, and then we can play with them in the way that makes the documents more accessible, as well as more in what we want the document to look at. So we use these 3 sort of categories in order to do that. So we have themes, format, and styles, and we'll be looking at that directly in just a moment. Any questions up to this point? I'm kind of going quickly just because we got a late start. How are we doing? Okay, seems okay. So let's look at our recipe as our example through various thoughts. And basically, I'm going to, in the chat, so you can play around with it yourself. I don't know if, because, are we still down from the internet? Can people access it now?
Clear away,
If they're on it, they can, yeah, as long as you're not on the damn campus, if you have high quality internet service from McDonald's or a gas station, you should be fine.
Whole address.
Okay,
You didn't copy the whole thing.
oh, okay, thank you. I'm not used to this computer either. This is
Oops,
really messy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just start here. Okay. All right, in chat, I'm putting up our recipe document for access. You have to make a copy of it. It will, when you hit it, I'll show you what it looks like. You just say, make a copy. And Bob's your uncle, we're all should be hopefully ready to go. Okay. So whether you have it on your screen or you can watch me, you can see that our first basic recipe is here. And we have, it's not in paragraph form anymore, which is of course step one, but now we need to think about how we can use these tools that, and we're gonna start with Google Doc just because we're in it. So you'll notice in this toolbar up here, you can see, oh, we're already in Georgia, my favorite font, so I'm happy about that. What do you notice about this that may put a question mark on it? We have the right font, but well, we're a little small, so probably we're gonna want to change that. Just do a, well, maybe I will, not on John computer.
For some
We're
reason,
gonna probably want to increase it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
for
ahead.
some reason on Zoom,
Yeah.
we're still seeing the Google slide. We're not seeing.
Oh, okay, I'll reshare it, thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah, just, it's probably on, yeah, okay. Yeah, share screen.
Desktop.
one. Or yeah, the desktop, actually, yeah, you're mirroring it now, apparently.
Okay,
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
should go to here,
Nope. Just click
Desktop
over
one,
and share.
yeah,
desktop one
and
share,
share,
okay. Okay. And then I just need to go back to where I'm at, okay? Sorry. Another reason I should not be doing, where is it? John, how do I get back to the Google Doc?
Just click on it. No, where are you?
Uh,
Oh. Oh, there, okay, I'm sorry.
Can you see it now?
Yep, we're with.
Awesome. Okay, so we noticed actually in normal text, we were set at 11 and we need to increase it to at least 12 for normal text to be accessible. So now hopefully we are all set at 12 and we want to make sure if we want to apply this now to, oh, now see, I just messed it up. We want to update normal text to match is what I should have hit. So let's move this to 12. We go to normal text and then I think if we update, yeah, now we are in 12. So when we hit this normal text, whenever we want to start writing, it should now be at Georgia at 12. But of course, that's just step one. We want to start thinking about our headers. So this is the title of what we want people to know. So we are going to look at, we could use title, but usually title is for the title of a book or a page. So that would usually go on your title page. So we probably want to call this heading 1. Now, what do you think about that? Head.
It's a little big.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's taken up. Well, I don't like the way that looks. I think headings should be, heading 1 should probably be at least 14, but maybe I like a little variation between my heading 1s and others. So I'm gonna make it 16. What do you think about that? Okay. Now we have 2 sort of categories here that are sort of equally important. We want people to have ingredients and we want to tell them how to do it. So then we're gonna go to, we could go into heading 2, which is here. But what do we think about this heading?
No red.
Yeah, I don't like the red either, and it also seems a little bit big to me. So I actually think I like mine at 14, and I'm gonna take away this red font, and I just want it to be nice contrast with black. You could underline it to separate it as well, but I don't know if that's necessary. And so, you know what, I think I'm gonna default this. And I'm gonna annotate this as my heading too. And then all I have to do is highlight directions and then go back to heading 2 and voila, it's done, okay? Now, what else do you think we need to do with this? Well, this is certainly clearer than paragraph form, but I always think it's better to make bullet points as a way to direct the eye. So I'm gonna come up here and I'm going to, sorry, I'm getting old and so I'm a little blind, but there you go. And this actually is really helpful to readers because the electronic reader can say that you now have a list and can convey that in much more concise ways to people who might have a visual impairment. And then, of course, as we already talked about, these are important steps for the recipe, but we want people to do them in order. You don't preheat the oven after you've mixed stuff. It's always better to preheat the oven first so that the oven's ready when you have the ingredients ready to go. So we are going to not bullet point these, but we are going to put them in numerical order. And voila, what do you think? Much easier, much more concise. And the nice thing about this in Google Docs is that if I want this to be my format from now on, I have now changed my normal, my headings to what I like. And so whenever I write recipes, I can use the same format. Okay? Makes sense? Great. All right, now the question is with Zoom, and you would think I would know this, can I just go back to my Google Slides now?
Yep.
Okay, the questions.
Yes.
So,
No, no.
it's on the top, there it is, okay. Oh. Thank you, Casey, for being here. Okay, now, of course, I never write things in Google Docs. Why? Because I wrote my dissertation on Microsoft Word, and you're not going to convince me that that's not the best thing to do anymore, which gets me probably into trouble. So with Word, you get, it's a little more complicated. They too have themes and headings and subheadings, but getting to them is a little different. And this is what I did not have a chance to prepare ahead of time, so I'm just going to hit the Word button. And will this go with the shared screen now, or do I have?
Yep, it'll go.
I do not trust Zoom, I guess, in terms of that. Do you all see that blank document now? Okay. All right. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to need to look for themes, because sometimes themes are really helpful in helping us get organized with whatever we're going to do. In this case, it would be the recipe. I didn't copy and paste them, but this gives you an idea. Okay, now you'll notice there's a lot of different presets here, and let me move the chat box just a moment. You can see that there's different themes that Word has already come up with. Some have color, some of them have, you know, really pretty things that, that we could incorporate into what we like. The only problem with these presets is a lot of times they aren't necessarily accessible. So what I actually like to do is I actually like to create my own themes. But if you jump down here, you can see a lot of these presets already. But if you go back into your home screen, you can then go into styles, and and you get this really nice tool here that will tell you, that's kind of like that toolbar that we saw in Google. has different titles, etc. So if I go and I type in cookie recipe. And I'm sorry, I had this all set to go, and then I could make that a title, and I would actually put that there. Which in this case is kind of, do you think that's very accessible? No, not really. So I could go into the title and you can do this thing called modify style. And then you'll notice that we are in an accessible font. It's Calibri Light, but that's not my Georgia. And of course, I really want Georgia. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to Georgia really quick. And okay. And I also, this is actually a title, so that's why it's so big. On a title page, that would be beautiful, but I think that's a little much. So let me go down to my 16 and then I can play with this as I see fit. Okay. Oh, and although it didn't change the font, and I know
It did.
It did.
Just did something goofy with the color.
it is, okay, so let's go, I'm gonna actually make this heading 1, because I think heading 1 is more in style anyway. Titles are gonna be whatever. Again, I can modify it however I want. Look at Georgia. It's now up there and.
Wait, stop.
Oh,
To the right of the,
oh, sorry.
no, Georgia, go back up to Georgia,
Uh-huh,
14, bold italic, change, keep going to the right.
Uh-huh.
Change
Oh.
that to black.
black, thank you. And then, I think if you hit automatically update, everything saves very nicely. Ah!
I don't know why, this is behaving very strangely, so I don't know.
Yeah, usually this worked when I tried this out earlier today. I don't know, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna try it one more time. I did something off on it. Georgia,
Change that back to white, where's the,
it's like it's a box. I think it's automatic. Hold on. Georgia. Yeah, I don't.
yeah, it's,
It should fix it.
you've shown them
How to do it.
kind of the idea, something.
Of what to do, I think it's just because I started with title instead of heading and I, backseat, that's probably why. Let's see, new style. Maybe because I didn't change this to heading 1.
No, there's something else.
Something else.
This is a much bigger, something else is going on and it's a long, you're gonna,
Yeah, and I wanted like, I wonder if I start over with a new document, if that helps, or maybe it's because I'm in this style. You'll notice that has normal, so this should be normal text. And then maybe if I just change it to heading 2, that looks a little better. And then we can go to modify style. And then we can maybe now at least get this part here.
no, it's still going to outline mode.
Huh. I don't know.
That's why I say, I think it's a bigger issue.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is actually does work on a normal Word document, I swear.
I wouldn't spend time on it.
I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I'm not gonna tell you just to use Google Docs now because I've broken Word document on this foreign computer, but generally the steps, I'm gonna go back to the slide and I'll just walk you through the steps there instead of demonstrating it. I'll just show you what you would do. I think that will be better. And Casey will come and fix this for me. There it is.
No, they're seeing the entire screen, so if you wanted to see the slide, you gotta get to the side of the
Right. So again, you would choose your theme, or you can start from scratch. If you're in styles, you want to put that style panel up. And then you can type in your stuff. You can check for the font size and look and decide whether you want to modify it. The difference is Google Docs will automatically save it as your new headings. You will have to go into the theme and save as the theme, and then that will use it in the future as well. And, but generally, the idea here is that once you decide, like, I have a theme called syllabus that has all my headings pre-planned already, so whenever I start to use this, I go into that theme and I can just hit heading one, and it has the look that I want every time, and so you don't have to keep over and over again, and that's so if you have any questions about this, of course, you can always revisit at oswego.edu accessibility. But do I have questions? Can you hear me now?
Oop, now we can. You were muted.
Okay, so I apologize. I don't know what's going on with Word. I feel like technology is really just laughing at me today, but, we have about four minutes and a low battery, so.
Yes, yeah, because of the battery, that's gonna go out within a couple of minutes. because-
Quick questions about this. I'm gonna re-share the screen so you can see the future. But,
What are you trying to share?
oh, I was just gonna share the slide with the future sessions.
All you had to do is click on the page.
Oh, thank you. Can you see that now?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
No, not share. Yeah, that's fine.
We do have image and description and alt text on Thursday, tomorrow at 10, Friday color and contrast, and then on Tuesday captioning. But any questions? All right, well, thanks for hanging in with me. I really, really appreciate it. And,
Thanks, Eve.
And I hope, you have better accessibility to technology in your next session. All right, take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Not record, right?